All right, good evening, everybody. This is Craig Blanchett, and this is our weekly Health Coach Huddle. Today, what we're going to be talking about is our new training system, which is pretty exciting. And we, we've got a new training system that was rolled out, the Optavia Learning System. So that's going to be fun. And we're also going to talk a little bit about the Accelerate Bootcamp. There's a ton of things that are happening right now as we just finished the leadership call. For those of you that may have missed the leadership call or watching this later on recording, every Monday from 5 to 5:30-ish is the leadership training call where we get to tune in and get updates on what's going on with the company. We get to hear from Dr. A almost every week. Depends on where he's at and what he's doing. And we get to hear from our top leaders as they celebrate rank advancements, new systems, updates on different things that are happening. So there's so every week, if you what I would recommend doing, and some of you that are joining us as coaches may not be used to using an electronic calendar. And so if you have a Gmail account, you have a Google Calendar. If you have a Yahoo account, you've got a Yahoo calendar. But if you are able to utilize whatever calendar you have and just go in on Mondays and make a recurring meeting, 5 to 5:30, I titled it Weekly Leadership Webinar. That's what's on mine. And then in the where it says location, I put the Zoom link in there. And then I said repeat every week forever. That's what I did. And then from 5:30 to 6, 5:30 to 6:15 is what I have it on my calendar, is the Health Coach Huddle. And that's either with our team only, or sometimes we, for different seasons, we go and we meet with Terry Miller and her group. So all that to say is if you have that as a rock in your calendar, things won't get in the way of it. The other thing that's really important about doing that is the way that you get trained from our leadership, the top leadership, is only on Monday nights regularly. Now, seasonally, we'll have boot camps on Saturday mornings, but otherwise, Monday night is the only night for health coach training. And so if you can just think about that in your mind, you have once a week where we get together. Now, secondary, and Terry Miller talked about this, for clients. And who here is a client, right? All of us, right? And so as a client, we want to be taking care of ourselves. And we've got 3 every Wednesday from 5. This is all West Coast time, so do the appropriate translation. West Coast 5 to 5:30 is a client support call. Now that's only a conference call. There's no Zoom involved. It's just a phone number that you call into, right? And the next is a webinar. It's a Zoom webinar. That's called Habits of Health. That's 5:30 to 6. Now you can telephone into that without Zoom. You just call into the Zoom number and put in the code, and then you can attend that on with no video. And then as soon as those, so it's 5 to 6 for both of those. From 6 to 6:30 is a trilogy call. And so that is where we do usually something on, if you have somebody that's thinking about coaching or wants to get some information about coaching, you could invite them to Wednesdays at 6 o'clock. And they can watch that, and then they can learn about a little bit about our program. And those are our live calls. So that's really a nice thing that we have. So Mondays is coach development night, and Wednesdays is client development and pre-coaches. Now, one of the things that I want to be really clear about that is that if the way that I learned to coach and the why I'm able to answer the questions that I can with my clients as they come up is for the first 90 days of coaching, I never missed one of those calls. I listened to every one of the client support calls. I listened to every Habits of Health call, and I watched the trilogy ones. And I listened to the questions and the answers. And I listened to how the doctors took questions and they asked questions, and then they gave answers. And that's what taught me how to coach. So if you're wondering about how to do it, just listen in there. And guess what? You're going to also get it for yourself, And when you know it for yourself, then you can know it for someone else too. So we call it Optavia University, and it's basically listen on Wednesday nights for yourself, and then it'll spill over into other people. So that's a couple things that I just wanted to go over: Monday nights, Wednesday nights, and right now we're in a boot camp season, and we've got 4 weeks down, 2 weeks to go on Saturday mornings, and that's 7 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Central. All right. So that's enough of the intro. Now I want to get into the Optavia learning system. So I gave everybody an assignment to be able to go in and take advantage of the training. And so what I'm curious, there's a couple different trainings right now. The first 30 days with Becca, there was 7 different modules that are in there. And I'm curious. I know that a couple of you guys responded. I did it. I think Carrie Armstrong was one of the first ones that said I completed the first module. I'm curious though, as you guys, first of all, who made the time and went into it? Raise your hand. Okay, quite a few of us, right? And there's some of us that didn't. You get a second chance. So if you didn't do it, you get a do-over. Okay? Does that feel all right? That doesn't feel too rough, right? And it's probably going to take you, I don't know, Carrie, how long do you think it took you to get through the first 30 days?
I think it maybe took about an hour, but I watched, I didn't follow just the thread of what I was actually answering. I went to each one of the answers to see what the answer would be. I don't know if that would make sense to people who were there or who've
done. So you had multiple endings to your story, is what you're trying to tell me?
I did. I had choose lots of adventures in my story.
2 lots of adventures. That's great. So it's what I'm thinking then, from based upon Carrie's thing, is if you only took the one path, it's probably going to be less than an hour, sounds like. So just so you guys can think about that as you are starting out as a coach, and I know Teresa is one of probably the newest coaches on our team, probably the newest. Well, Shannon's pretty new as well. So we've got a couple fairly new folks, but whether you're new or old, just pretend that you're new and then go through the new stuff so that you'll know what to talk about. I think it's also going to build confidence. You're going to see the training system and how we're doing training is getting better and better and more refined and more intentional, more on purpose. And so you're going to have more confidence when you bring people into this, because you're not going to have to think of everything, right? You're going to be able to get them plugged into the system. So who has some takeaways that they'd like to share from the training? What did you learn? Why do you think this is, do you think this is going to be a good thing, and why? Who wants to go first? By the way, you guys, I want to show you something that works really well with a group of this size. We have 22 of us on tonight. That's pretty great. Is you can, if you're on a computer, you can go down to where it says participants at the bottom, and then you can click on raise hand, and that will raise the hand, and I'll be able to see that you raised your hand. Kind of fun. If you're on a phone, you click on the screen, click more, and then you can click raise hand. Or you can use one of these. This is a real hand, and you can just raise your hand too. So, but anyhow, who's got their hand up for? Ooh, Lynn Ann. All right, Lynn Ann, you're up. Unmute yourself, and then you're on.
This is not very detailed, but what Nancy was talking about in her, she didn't even say mindset. She didn't even talk about that. But the negative talk in your mind and how you need to really arrest that. And I thought, here is this absolutely gorgeous, super successful woman. If she has negative self-talk, then it's understandable that we all do. Mm-hmm. And it's a real thing, and it's not just me, it's other people that everybody else looks at and goes, wow, they would never have negative self-talk, but mm-hmm. we all do. Mm-hmm. So, I feel like I'm not alone in that, and that it's a real thing, and that as we grow as Optavians, we're going to grow in our minds and learn how to stop the invasive thoughts that mm-hmm. can just shut us down so that we can move forward. That really spoke to me.
Thank you, Lynn Ann. Yeah, one of the things that happened, in history is there was a time that we were kind of more in harmony with ourselves, and then there was an event that happened and it changed that. And so now you have like the voice of your flesh, and then you have the true you. And there's two parts of the brain, the limbic system and the prefrontal cortex. And everyone has that. I've named it the tempting voice. It's the voice that just kind of tempts you or beats you up. I've heard it called the pig. I've heard it called the lizard brain. I've heard it called chatter. I've heard it called whatever it's called. It's just that voice that is in your head that doesn't serve you. Never wants to work out, always wants sweets, right? Always thinks that crashing on the couch and watching TV is the best idea in the world, right? When you wake up in the morning, always tells you your bed is the most comfortable place on planet Earth and it's the perfect temperature. Right? Doesn't it tell you that? That's what mine tells me. It's like the perfect temperature right here. Why would you ever get out of this bed? All right. And so let's just say everyone has it. It's a feature of being human. Now, the people that are successful are the ones that have separated themselves from it. And I'm going to give you guys a little, I do a lot of, I have a ministry. I've been working for 17 years. And so I'm I've had a lot of experience with this. And I'll just tell you, one of the simplest things you can do is when you hear that voice, say what you heard out loud. Okay? And I'm telling you what, this will change everything. I have a ministry called Intercept, and working with taking responsibility for our lives and this idea of the tempting voice. So when you hear that the thought, you could just say the tempting voice or the pig or whatever you want to name it, the whatever thinks that I shouldn't do this or thinks that I should do this or whatever. And when you hear yourself say what the thought was, it immediately separates you. You have to do it with your words though, because if you just keep it in your thought processes, it's like battling thoughts. And when you say it out loud, it separates you. And if you struggle deeply with this, reach out to me, because I have experience in this area and I can help you with a couple of things to get through that. But the thing is that when you separate yourself, you can dominate. You're the boss of you. You're the one that controls the such. You're the only one that chooses to sit on the couch and turn on the TV and veg. You have to actually do that because you're the only one that can work your hands. So this thought in your mind that tells you can't or you shouldn't or whatever, it's too scary, it doesn't serve you. So say it what it says and then move on. Everybody that's successful it has to do that. We all get that. All right. So thank you, Lynn Ann. And I mean it. If you guys want more help with that, let me know. Who else from the training, from the Optavia learning system and the modules that they went through, who else has something that they liked about it or that stood out to them? Pam, actually, you know what? Teresa had her hand up, and then Pam, we're coming to you next. So so click on the screen and then, yep, there you go.
There.
All right. I can hear you now.
Okay. So
hi, Teresa.
Hi, how are you?
Great.
So I think a couple things came to mind for me. First, let me just say, I believe in what you said, maybe in a more Christian roundabout way. I don't know which, but get behind me, Satan is always a good one I use always out loud because I do not like negativity. Second thing is get behind me, Satan, but also get your shoes on. And it's sort of my thing because I feel a lot of times the helpful things in the morning are when you get ready is to get your shoes on so you're not so comfortable to go sit back down and tuck your feet under you and have a longer coffee break. I feel like when my shoes are on, I'm ready to go or meet somebody or just in general. So, okay, those things. But now I want to go to the learning module. First, Nancy Strauss, I guess I should say this. I love the accept no less than what you want or need. I think she said want, but I also put my needs in there because I think it's super important to always be focused on those things. And as far as the learning module, last night I was going through some of that and I thought, when you come up against the objections, um, it, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
When you come up against the objections, I felt that one of the best things that they said, and I took a note of it because I was pretty impressed with it, about taste, that they may not like the taste of some of the foods, because I found myself right away, and Dawn could probably vouch for me on this, is thinking, wow, that's not my favorite. I don't want anyone I know that I know wouldn't like that to taste that either. And and there's only like two things. And there are only two things that are like that. And I thought, that's silly. So I loved it when they said, your palates are oversaturated with things that they've been eating. And I thought, I've got to use that because that's something, I'm about taste, but I also don't live to eat. But others do. And I have to remember those things all the time, because I have a tendency to want to relate to everything that others are going through, other than sometimes just hearing what they're going through and saying, let me get that answer for you. But I did like that response, so that I'm able to use that with a couple people. You know, I don't want anything that's boring tasting. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because there's something in everyone loves.
That exactly.
Anyway,
there's enough. We can find enough things that we will like to change our life.
Yes.
And make it all like really good. Like definitely.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah. When people first started the program,
and
they had like, I think there was 2 shakes and 1 pudding. Think about that. There was like 3 options: a vanilla shake, a chocolate shake, and a banana pudding or something. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Teresa. Yeah, I agree. That's great stuff. Yeah. Amber, or up. Let's see. Pam, you're up, and then Amber's next.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
I thought the smoke screens were really good. The 6 smoke screens, and I especially liked when he gave examples. Like, for instance, the first one was cost, and you could say, "Well, how far off are we?" You know, he gave like specific statements that you could say for each one of those, and I thought that was really good to try to, you know, incorporate that when people come up with their smoke screens as a comeback, and just listen from there. Just, you know, throw a question at them and just pause and stop and let them respond.
Well, and that, thank you, Pam. And that kind of pertains to Lynn Ann's, with that voice in our head. You know, we have, oddly enough, we make a big fuss about things that could make our life better, but we don't spend a ton of time about grabbing that cinnamon roll, or doing that, spending money on that thing that's not going to serve us. Right. And it's funny how it's just a smokescreen, because you know, there's a part of you that doesn't like change, and that's it. Once you start eating healthy, it will get used to that, and it won't like to not eat healthy. Right. It's that, those smoke screens that come along. I love that. Yeah. By the way, here's a crazy thing: is Harold Prestenbach, who was the one that gave that, probably 3 years ago. He's part of our team. The Prestenbachs are part of our team. And so they were in this meeting right here with all of us. And then they got to a point, which is so great, where their skills were growing so fast that they started having their own meetings, and now they have their whole organization. And it's just like, you know, so why wouldn't that be one of you guys? You know, like, let's do this. Well, one of the things they did is they got out of their way and they started owning things. They started developing themselves personally. And oh my goodness, I'm so thankful they did, because now these people are just, I'm learning from them now, right? It's so great. Amber, you're up next.
Well, the thing I really liked about it is that it's a place a new coach can go. I mean, you need your mentor to guide you, but sometimes your mentor may be a little out of pocket, or maybe you catch your mentor when we're not having our best day and we can miss something. And these training modules don't let them miss anything. And it takes them step by step by step. It gives them verbiage, examples. It quizzes them to engage their mind, to say, were they really listening? Did they catch it? And they can go back and refer to it. So I think this is just golden.
And the beauty of it too is it's less dependent on us to make sure we get them to the right place in the right video and the whatever. Everybody is going to have the same training system. So not only is it good quality, but it's consistently delivered. And I absolutely agree with you, and I'm thrilled. You know, it's interesting because this was Terry and David's brainchild. This wasn't Optavia's idea to do this, and so it kind of takes a village where you have a lot of people kind of pushing this thing and saying Optavia is not good enough. It's got to get better, and they keep saying that. And guess what? It keeps getting better. Like it really is better. So thank you, Amber. That's awesome. Carrie, you're up next.
My takeaway was more of a, well, one of them was more of a overall, the way that the whole program responded. Like you said that I said choose your own adventure, but talking about that where whatever your answer was and whatever you wanted and wherever you wanted to head, it was a good decision. And so I like that it was supportive like that.
Yeah. Like I was wondering when when you clicked the one for Dr. A, and when it said, I wanted this, he said, that's a fantastic. I was like, I wonder if he said that for all of them. Well, you probably went back and clicked them all.
Yeah, there are different responses. And I know last week when Debbie was talking about her time frame, and then his response made her go back and wanted to think, well, could I make more time? But it still was supportive, whatever you want. And I think it's a good way to handle coaching with clients and coaches.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, in reality, Optavia is not trying to get us to do anything other than trying to help us be. Optavia is trying to help us get what we want, what we said's important to us, if we've had the time to say what's important to us. And if we haven't, then it's the process of learning to vocalize, I want this dream. And I don't know about you, but as we get older, I think sometimes we get more and more reluctant to saying those things. And we become dream deficient, that we just settle for enough, or we settle for okay. I talked to a coach today, and one of Murray's clients, and we were doing a 3-way, and I said, she said that she was okay with the fact that she hadn't lost any weight in 3 months. And I thought, why? But I mean, why are you okay with that? And okay, you're okay, but if you could choose to move forward, would you want to? And she said, yeah. And I'm like, okay. But see, we resolve ourselves to be okay because we don't know how to change it. But you're part of something that does. That's why we're plugged into Optavia. I don't know how to do many of the things that I want to do. But I know that between all of my mentors and working with you guys, I'm figuring it out. That's staying the same is not an option. I'm going to figure it out. And so anyway, I just want to encourage you guys with that whole reality that even though you may not have been able to dream big yet, just start dreaming and you'll get better at it. It takes practice sometimes because we've lost our ability to do that. So anywho, who else? Anybody else have a comment or some feedback? We can switch to the Accelerate, because the Accelerate talked a lot about branding, and there was some deep nuggets in there and some really, really valuable things about how to brand ourselves and the ways that we do different things. I had a few notes from there that I wanted to share, but does somebody else have? I'm going to just start off with this first piece, is that when Becca Tinter talked about social media, there was some people that said, well, I don't use social media. And she said, oh, I understand, but social media offers something that is not offered in any other way. And you can choose to use it or not use it. But she just said, well, here's some reasons why you may want to increase your competency in this area. And bottom line is, it's more lives are changed. That's the thing. And another thing that when they talked about this, when we don't offer coaching, we're making it about us. Because when we don't offer our health program to somebody, or we don't offer the ability for someone to make a living helping other people win. And when we don't do that, we are being selfish. We're making it about us because of whatever our hangups are. And those two things stood out to me pretty profoundly. So we just have about, about 6-7 minutes left. Who else had something they wanted a takeaway they'd like to share with us? Or something that it has caused you to do differently and you're doing it. Who wants to share on that? Are you guys aware that 7 to 8 a.m. on Saturdays is the Accelerate boot camps, right? And then they're recorded. Okay, just want to make sure you guys all know that that is happening. And if you didn't listen to it live, you can listen to the recording, but only if you set time aside to do it. That's another, it seems obvious, but it's not actually. Go ahead, Amber.
This last week's boot camp, because I was in another training in Houston, I never have found the live recording of that. I found everything else, and I've watched everything else, but not that one.
Oh, I tagged you. I went to the thing and I tagged you in it. So that was the latest recording.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was
tagged you,
what I
Amber.
watched, and it was about the what was that about? About the offering for someone to come and watch a thing for health coaching.
Oh, that was the second thing with Corey Baker. But I actually went into the group, found the video. Here, let's just take a second here, and because maybe some others of you have not seen it. So let me share my screen here just so you know. So it's called Accelerate Bootcamp 2019. And I'm just for kicks, make sure we check our stuff. AMBER. No, sometimes you have to capitalize. Amber, HANSEN. Well, I wonder if you're in here.
And I thought I was.
Well, you probably are. Sometimes Facebook doesn't always do that properly. But when you go down here and you click on the, what is it? Right here, stored files. We had an awesome week 4. And then I commented on this, and I commented with your name, but I'll just do it again, AMBER, Amber Hansen. So I'm here. What happened there? Here, what was it? Comment. Amber Hansen. Here. Ugh. So Facebook's a little glitchy sometimes, as you can see. Now here's something that I'm going to show you. Do you see how this person here is gray? And then it has a little thing next to it? This person, see what it says right there? The way the Yo-Yum cannot see this post because she's not a member of this group. So if you ever tag somebody in something and they're grayed out, it's because you haven't added them to the group yet, or they haven't accepted the invitation yet. I don't know if you guys knew that, but hopefully that was just a little tip for you. AMBER HANSEN. I'm just going to tag you without typing anything. So there. And then she also says it's stored in the files and ready. So let's go over here to the files section. We click on files, weekly bootcamp recordings. And here is 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay. So hopefully that was, sometimes these little tips, the technical things can blow you out of the water. And if you don't ask, you'll continue not to know. So can you get past the fact of not knowing something and asking? Right now, Amber might have been the only one. Amber's pretty tech savvy. She's pretty familiar with computers, right? But she didn't know that. So we figured it out. And then now all of you will know, first of all, when you add someone to a group and their name's grayed out, you'll know what that means. and secondary, you know how to go find the files. And so now there's one more thing that could be missing if you haven't viewed those. Does anybody know it? We talked about this last week. Does anybody know what that might be? If you haven't watched the videos, you know where they're at, but you haven't watched them yet. There's one missing ingredient or one thing that's needed.
You need to do it, or else put it on your calendar.
Yep,
Your
exactly.
calendar.
You've got to block the time. Think about it this way. You make an appointment with your future upgraded self, and you block off an hour, and then when that hour comes up, you do it. Because your future self is counting on it. Like it's impossible for you to upgrade without doing that thing. I don't know if you guys, I know you guys have heard this. When you put something on your calendar, you're the CEO of your corporation. When the reminder comes up, you're the employee. So think about that. So make sure that you only give your employee things to do that are necessary, right? Because when it comes up, you don't have veto power. You do it or you get fired. How many times has anybody fired themselves in this business? I fire myself like all the time. Fortunately, I get a job again and I hire myself back. And I'm like, I'm going to get better. But how else I don't got anybody managing me. How different is this when you've worked for somebody else your whole life? This is not easy. So find a way to be able to boss yourself around and do it, whether you feel like it or not, because when you put it on your calendar, it was a really good idea. My tempting voice, whenever the alarm comes off, says, that was a horrible idea. I don't want to do that. But who cares what it thinks? It would lay in bed all day if it could. All right, guys. So just in closing here, you can know where the training is, but if you don't watch it and don't learn from it, it doesn't help you. That's like knowing what to do, but not doing it, right? This is the quandary that most people are in. I know how to be healthy. I know what to eat. I just don't do it. It's not helping you. Got to do it. So work with your coach if you need to. If you're stuck on something, if you're stuck on the actual getting it done, if you could just, here's a simple thing you can do. Just pull out your phone if this is you, if you're stuck on something and you just can't find the time or whatever it is. Pull out your phone right now, pull up a new text message to your coach and say stuck. That's all you have to say. Your coach will figure it out. They will contact you and they will figure out how to help you. So if you're stuck on anything and you stay stuck, don't. So that's all I got. Anybody else have any closing words or anything else they wanted to add?
Craig, can you explain, you said earlier about the thoughts that are in our head, and if we actually said what we thought, I didn't quite get what results would we get from that?
Yeah, what happens is when you say it out loud, it's in your limbic system, and your limbic system doesn't have access to your vocal cords. It's very rudimentary, like ow or crap or ah, it's got very limited access. But to have these kinds of words, it has to go through your higher reasoning center, which is called your prefrontal cortex. So when you hear a thought that says you're dumb or you can't do it, or cake is always the answer, or whatever it might be, I just need some cake to make me feel better. What you can do is you can say the chatter, the whatever voice in my head thinks that this is a good idea or thinks that that's a bad idea. And when you say it out loud, it has to go through your higher reasoning centers, your logic center, in order to vocalize it. So that separates the thought from the true you. And then you can say, nope, that's a dumb idea.
Right. My logical or intellectual side will either argue with it and put it down or whatever. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you'll separate it. Like if I told you, hey, Eileen, I think it'd be a great idea if we went and robbed a bank. Well, you would realize that that was my voice and not yours. And you would say, that's probably not such a great idea, Craig. Well, when you say what you heard out loud, it's as if another person is saying it, and it separates it.
Mm.
So then you
And-
can
And then I
basically
can
say,
decide.
You
Yeah,
decide. That's
I
right. You
decide.
decide.
Okay,
That's right.
I get it. Thank you.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I hope that helps you out. Let's continue on with the training, the second module. So if you haven't got through the first 30 days, looks like it's going to take you at the very most an hour. And so if you haven't done that, then get to that. For those of you that have done that, you can move on into the second set of lessons. And we'll see you back here next, Monday the 18th, President's Day. Look forward to seeing you then. All right, take care, everybody. Have a good night.